What growth stage would you say Resolute is in today?
We have been just on the growth trajectory since day one. So I feel very lucky, but we have had consecutive growth every single year for 11 years. We have continued to grow in people. We've continued to grow in revenue. We continue to look at our services and what makes sense and what's new, because there's constantly something new, especially in the digital space. So to me, I always want to keep that entrepreneurial mindset. There are times when I go, wow, we're 10 years. That's a real established company. But really, I don't ever want to lose that, because if you just rest on your laurels and you go, yeah, we're great and this stuff makes money, that's not going to last very long. So always looking at what comes next. I would say in the last probably year, we've spent a lot of our energy as a leadership team focused on processes and really making sure that there's a consistency within the team. So no matter who someone works with on the team, there is a Resolute way in which we do things, and we want that to be the same. And so really making sure that we institutionalize some of our values and our processes.
And what inspired that? After 11 years, what got you to a point where you decided the process was going to be inconsistency of delivery was going to be the big focus?
A few things. So part of us being able to grow has meant that I've been able to really be in a CEO and founder seat, where I'm focused really on business development and community involvement and high-level strategy for our clients. But it's also meant that it's provided some opportunities for our vice presidents. So we have one that's over client service and one that's over operations. And it's taken some of those things off of my plate to where they've really been able to take a step back and say, these are some of the specific things that we feel like we need to do to run a better agency or to provide a better service to our clients. And then we kind of work on it together. You know, one of us might take the lead on something, but as a team, we're focused on, you know, what are we missing, or what else could we be doing, or where do we feel like there are inconsistencies?
Yep. And give me an idea of what's on your leaders list right now. What's the biggest strategic initiative that you, 2 or 3 that you're working on?
Yeah, so a big one for us is really leaning into being a data forward agency and making data informed decisions. So I'm a huge research nerd. I just think there's so much access to information these days that going off of your gut, well, I will say our gut is usually pretty spot on. There's no excuse for not looking at data as a part of that decision. And I think for our clients and as other business owners, we feel a lot better about spending money and making the investment in marketing if it's backed up by data and we're following the traction of that. Are we being successful? Are we seeing the numbers that we want to see? Taking that reporting back as another layer of research so that we can continue to iterate. So we are leaning very heavily into that. Our director of digital just got back from a conference where she was looking at all of the different AI platforms and digital tools that are out there to be able to, you know, amalgamate all of that information. And it's, you know, it's different by different clients because they have different customers, and the research that would be relevant is going to be different, but really being able to customize that for every single client. So that is a big initiative that we're already doing, but that will really be pushing hard at the beginning of the year and continuing to change how we do that for our clients and for new clients.
Yeah. Well, speaking of how you do it for your clients, Nicole, let's talk a little bit about, you know, in terms of managing brand, managing your messaging that goes into the marketplace. What's the thing that you look at as the biggest challenge these for, you know, all the executives that are running SMBs out there and scaling their business? What are they going to have to contend with?
I mean, I think one is just if you want to be successful in terms of marketing, you're going to have to invest in it. And so that is something that we run into sometimes, where you have a business that, you know, they really want to be aggressive. They want to be able to get their goal, their messaging out there and to achieve their goals. But then they kind of stop short when it comes time to spending the money, because maybe they think, well, I can create that video myself, or I can do this myself. I have someone that I just hired straight out of school that can run, you know, our social media and do some ad campaigns. And the thing is, is such a high bar now when it comes to the brand that you put out there, that it's got to be really high quality creative. You have to be keeping up with all the changes that are happening in Google and on social media and the new platforms that come out. And that is really difficult to do for one person. And it also, it takes money and consistency to be able to win that game. So I tell people you have to look at it as an investment. Because you're investing in your business, you have to spend money to make money. But if you are working with someone who's going to be really smart and treat those dollars like they're their own, then you're going to be able to get a lot more traction.
How do you help somebody get over the ROI hump? Because, like every marketer says, you have to invest in it to make it work. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of CEOs will say, yeah, I did put a lot of money into it and I didn't get the return I was expecting. And so is that on the fault of the agency, or is that the buyer not recognizing the time that it takes? How do you help people? Because tell us a little bit about your typical customer so we can get a feel for what, who you're dealing with and the expertise they have in the space.
Sure. Well, a lot of them, while the industry could be anything from a government agency to a nonprofit to a small business, a lot of times the people that we interact with are the top people. They are the CEO or they're the COO. And to your earlier point, I think part of that is from my PR background, because it's not about just your marketing goal. It's about what are you trying to achieve as an organization. And we got really heavy into workforce marketing a few years ago, because through conversations with those leaders, what we were learning was we can do a great job marketing your organization, but if you don't have the employees to actually make the thing, then the marketing is useless. So, okay, well, let's figure out how we can solve that problem then. So we're working with the HR departments and looking at their employer branding and seeing how they're getting those jobs out there, rather than just posting them on Indeed and saying, well, they're just not there, because what we were finding was that wasn't really the case. So I think having those conversations at the top, and then I think you and I were talking earlier just about trust and how important trust is. And that's very real, because people do have bad experiences sometimes with an agency, and it can make them feel like I should have just lit that money on fire and I probably would have had more fun. And that breaks my heart. But it's also, it's a challenge for me of, if you're not ready to work with an agency, that's fine. We would almost rather you wait until you are ready, and let's just continue the conversation. Let's have lunch every once in a while, or let's kind of talk through what some of your challenges are. And over time, hopefully we can get to a place where you trust us enough to try again.